Every year around this time, I love sharing a quick look back at some of the topics we've explored together, and we've covered a ton this year. We've dived deep into plenty of real-world case studies too, beyond just hearing from the priests. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. So let's revisit the 10 real-world case studies we've explored together this year. And we'll start with this. A while back, I shared the story of that Indian family who's been under intense spiritual attack, evil spirits sent by their former maid. It all started about 2 years ago, and things got so bad that the husband had to send his wife and young son back to India for their safety, while he stayed behind alone in Dubai. You can just imagine the fear, the exhaustion, the desperation tearing that family apart. This is a reminder of how these demonic attacks can bring utter misery to everyday families. But it's one thing to hear about it in the priest's interviews. It's another when we see it through these case studies. The mental torment, the physical toll, the constant fear, especially when they aren't Christians and have no idea how to fight back or find deliverance.
That's right. I just woke up and there was some sound over here. But it's very strange that lights are on now. Normally there's no activities during the night, but I could hear some sound. Oh God. The haunting has begun. The door just opened. There's constantly buzzing in my ears, constantly. It's like constantly somebody is like talking on nonsense in my ears. Initially I tried putting the earbuds in my ears to, as you guys suggested, for the noise cancelling. Unfortunately I got the fungal ear infection now, because I come late at night, I take bath and I straight away go to sleep. I'm having a same dream over and over again every night, and just terrorizes me. I'm kind of a bit terrified, and more than that I'm shocked for what actually I've discovered right now. I think it's because of the black magic, and I had to find where it's been hidden. The problem is the everything was like whatever things has happened in the old apartment. So I was like a bit confused, like where can I actually go and find the black magic? Because
Anyway, remember the maid that I mentioned earlier who sent curses to this family? Well, it turns out the maid really did leave something behind. Check this out.
okay, you see there's actually a whole maid over here. Okay, and I was just trying to investigate like what was actually the damage, and I found a lump over here. Okay, over here I found a lump, so I just tried to stick out my hand inside. Okay, I'm not gonna touch it because it's kind of it. There's some bones, and what actually I can see here is this is my razor blade. You can see this there's even what you call that, the rusting in that. It's a bit old. So my razor blade has been tied completely to the bones. Okay, I don't want to, this is like my one shot in preventing whatever is happening with me. So I'm just going to take this everything as it is to the priest, and I'm just going to give it to him, and hopefully he knows what he can do with this.
Anyway, listen to this brief explanation from Father Winston. This will help to put things into perspective on the whole thing. Listen to this.
That is why often witches and curses, before they send curses, they try to divine first to see whether the person is protected or not. If the person is protected, they would not dare to send the curse. Because the curse, the demon that you will send, would come back and wreak havoc on the sender. So if a particular person, let's say a particular person is protected by the grace of God, the witch will not send the curse, because God is the one that protects the person, and the demon will come back with a vengeance, retaliate against the witch and the one who paid for the witch. Now, if the person is protected by an amulet, by a talisman, or by a higher evil spirit, the demon will also not come in, because it will not be able to do what its intended action be, because there is a protecting evil spirit.
We've talked a lot this year about witchcraft, the deception, the lies, and just how dangerous it really is spiritually. So for our second case study, we're going to hear from a former witch who lived deep in that world and experienced its darkness firsthand.
And so when I was about 13 years old, my grandmother started to be really outward around me about her identity as a good witch, a white witch. And I remembered, like, oh my gosh, I remember that movie. I remember Matilda finding her identity. My grandmother's telling me this is her identity, and I resonate so much with both of them. She's right, this is for me. And she would constantly speak that over me, that word curse that I had come into agreement with at 7 years old. She was now speaking over me through a generational curse, through a curse on my bloodline to, in Satan's eyes, hopefully and eventually pass through me to my kids. She was speaking over me. You have the gift. You have the ability. You're operating in light. Don't ignore it. Don't push it away. Don't be scared. It's good. And so I started to really take on that identity. It started with very innocent seeming things, right? Like I said, the Bible says that Satan comes disguised as an angel of light. And so that's seemingly exactly what it was. It was just light work, right? It started with zodiac signs. It started with astrology and birth charts. It started with horoscopes. It started with crystals, and then it went into manifestation, and then it went into the Enneagram, and just these things that seem so innocent, right? Wolves disguised in sheep's clothing, really is what it was. And it wasn't until maybe 15 that I started to get really into the craft. 15 years old, I got my first spell book, which was passed down to me generationally through my grandmother. I started doing spells and got into much deeper things like astro projecting, opening my third eye. I was traveling in my dreams. I was just absolutely consumed with finding that next level of consciousness, becoming my highest self, awakening my inner goddess, whatever that was. I was trying to become my own god, trying to paint my own future. And along with that really deep witchcraft of tarot cards and Ouija boards and all these things, these portals that I was opening every day, came absolute torment. I started to experience things that I could only imagine in the depths of hell, to be honest with you. I started experiencing intense sleep paralysis. I remember one night I woke up in the middle of the night around 3 a.m., which I'm sure I'm not the first person that you've heard say that. There's a reason for that. I would wake up constantly from knocks on my window, 3 knocks. I always saw things in multiples of 3s, but I woke up one night and I couldn't move. My body was like chained to my bed. My mind was awake, my eyes were open, but I couldn't move. And I heard laughing, bouncing off the walls, just like bouncing off the walls in my room. It was a little girl laughing, and I could hear voices over top of each other, like coming on to me, like kind of like grabbing at me like that. And they were saying like, we got her, laughing. And I remember I couldn't wake up, I couldn't scream, I couldn't do anything. And I was stuck there, and it felt like I was stuck there for hours. Really, I'm sure in the grand scheme of things, it was only a couple minutes, but that's only one experience that I had. There was another time where I was sitting in my living room meditating. I was sitting in a yoga pose, unknowingly channeling Hindu gods, literally right there in the middle of my house. Was starting to see in the spirit what was in front of me, like I was there with my eyes open, and I wasn't. My eyes were closed and I could see my entire living room. I could see my house just as it was in the physical realm, but I watched a demon walk from my hallway, which is on like the top right hand side of where I'm seeing my vision, walk through the living room, stand right in front of me. And this thing was probably 10 feet tall, this black, dark, like lanky looking, like almost like an alien, no face, just stood right in front of me, got down in my face and just looked at me like that for what seemed like hours. I couldn't scream, I couldn't move, I was stuck. I was so oppressed by this spirit that I literally physically couldn't move. There were so many times like this, and it even started to affect people that were outside of what I was practicing. My roommate calls me one night, 3 a.m., as I'm having panic attacks every night at 3 a.m., anywhere from 3 to 6 hours long. She called me and I was like, why is she awake? It's normal for me to be awake at this hour, but why is she awake? And she calls me and says, you need to come in here right now. There's somebody in my room. And I was like, what? There's someone in your room and you want me to come in there and you're calling me on the phone? Like, this doesn't make sense. And so I ran in there, opened the door, and the look on her face, I'll never forget it. She told me later that when I opened that door, the person, the demon that was standing in her room flew. Like it went out of the window as soon as she saw me open the door.
And just like I always do with these case studies, I would share the clip of The Exorcist right after, so we can listen, reflect, and learn together.
Pray that they come into the light, because they're being deceived. Monsignor Rossetti just had a guest on one of his, he has these sort of Zoom calls with many exorcists. And we learned from some of the people that came on, and there was a gentleman came on who was a Satanist. And he gave his testimony and said, you know, whenever you make a contract with the devil, and that happens anytime you ask for a favor, you ask for something. And that's what the witches are doing. They're saying, please give us this. They always take something from you, and it's always much more than what they gave you. And so he finally realized, I'm being crushed by these demons because I keep asking for these things. And he had to get out. So you want her to come to the knowledge that this is not what it was ascribed to be. It was a deception. It looked like something that would be good, and she bought into it, but let her know the reality. This is evil, and she shouldn't be doing it. And hopefully she can get out without being too beat up, because getting out is hard once you go in. So pray for protection over her as well. And yourself. If you're going to be praying for a witch to convert, you, too, better have protection.
Moving on to our third case study, we're going to hear from another former witch, someone who was deeply involved in the occult before.
Around the age of 13, I was starting to get depressed. I was being bullied at school. And even though I was in a Christian home, my parents did the best that they could, but they were heavily on the side of just abuse. And so when you were in trouble, you were beat. And so I believe the enemy used that to come against my self-worth, who I thought I was. And I was so depressed. I just thought if I would die, life would be better for everybody else. And so during that time, I was connected with some girls, and I remember going to a sleepover, and they watched a movie called The Craft. And this movie came out around 1996, and it was about 4 witches who were in high school. And these witches were bullied and picked on, and their lives were kind of messed up, and they used witchcraft to control situations around them and to get what they wanted. I watched the movie, and I thought, I want that. Well, of course, in the movie, they went too far anyway, and the witchcraft had turned against them, and the girls were desperate to get out of it. But during that point, I didn't even see that ending. I just thought, oh, I won't go that far. I'm just going to be innocent in it. And I began to study the religion of Wiccan and study different spells and incantations and New Age practices and occult practices that I was doing in a Christian home that nobody knew I was doing. And so what started off as something innocent, where I'm just connecting with energy and the universe and vibes and all these innocent things that we see, took me down a path of just dark desperation. I felt at one point that I was living in like a haunted house, because I was hearing scratches on the wall right next to me. I would feel brushed by me and be terrified that somebody is here in the room with me. Someone's watching me. I've always felt like I was being watched. When I would wash my face for the day, it was one of the most terrifying things that I did. When I took a shower and I had to close my eyes, I was so terrified. If I had to get up in the middle of the night to get a glass of water, I would run because I thought something's going to grab my feet. I was an adult at this point, and it took me far into drugs. I ended up being homeless and on drugs, in and out of jails and all kinds of things. For 9 years of my life, I was really in a dark place.
And during one of my Zoom sessions with Father Winston this year, he shared what happened to him one night at 3 a.m, and it's strikingly similar to what that former witch just described in the previous clip. The difference is, Father Winston knew what to do to stop the attacks.
So I went to the hotel room. I did not pick the corner rooms. I was in the middle room. And then I was there for the night to rest, took a shower, did my night prayers, blessed my room, and then went to sleep. 3 o'clock in the morning, the things that you were telling me occurred. First, knocking at the door. There was knocking at the door. Then, before the knocking at the door, the faucet inside the bathroom suddenly opened. I can hear the water, and I said, "This is it." And then the knocking at the door, constant knocking, and then scratches. I can hear fingernails scratching the wall behind the television set. And then there were movements as if walking on the ceiling. So I prayed first. And I said, "My guardian angel, please expel the spirits so that I can sleep. I still have an event tomorrow." Well, as I was joking myself, the things continued, the manifestation continued, and perhaps the guardian angel was telling me, "You are the priest. You should be able to respond to this. I'm here to strengthen you and strengthen your faith, but not to do this expulsion. You do that expulsion. You are the priest. You know what to do." So what I did was, I opened the kit because it was beside me, and then got the holy water, blessed oil, blessed salt, put on the stone, and I prepared myself to pray. Then opened the book for the deliverance of the room. And then after the prayer of deliverance, I started to bless again the room for the purpose of deliverance, anoint the walls with blessed oil, and placed blessed salt in the corners. That stopped things. It stopped. And then I thank God. After that, cleansing prayers, thanksgiving to the Lord, and went back to sleep. And it was quiet since then. So this is in a mini hotel. Now, can lay people do that? Yes. This is what I advise. Again, I said, go and download the prayer that is found in the AMO website, www.amoe.ph. And you'll find there also deliverance and blessing of a room. So you can use that prayer to bless and do deliverance in your room. And wherever you go, unknown places, in a hotel, in a resort, or in a relative's place, and that you do not know their Christian life, or you know that they are not living a consecrated life to the Lord, then you can use those prayers. In fact, I have many friends and those that I knew who used that prayer and said, Father, since I used that prayer, I never had nightmares either in my room or in any room that I will sleep in for the night.
Now, for our fourth case study, let's dive into this gripping story shared by a police officer who encountered something truly unsettling on the job. And just like I've asked before with some of these cases, I want to hear from you again. Based on what you hear, do you think this is primarily demonic oppression or possession, or is it more likely rooted in mental health issues, or maybe a combination of both? But anyway, please listen to this.
I hate even talking about it because it gives me anxiety. But anyhow, this story happened at like 4 o'clock in the morning. But this dude goes to the gas station in town and he says, hey, I need to use your phone. I need to call 911. It's an emergency. So the clerk's like, yeah, okay. So the guy calls 911 and says people broke into his home and his wife's still there. And that he was going to go back to the house. So, I mean, there's already kind of some red flags with that. I mean, that just doesn't seem logical that you leave your wife, or that multiple people are going to break into the house, and like, you know, it's usually like one or two at the most. You know, I respond. I was the first one on scene. I pull up and I see this little tiny house. It looks more like a hunting cabin. And I didn't know it, but the guy was sitting in his truck right in the driveway when I pulled up, and he hops out and he's got a gun, and he's an older man. I mean, he's in his 70s, and he is wigging the out. I can't even understand what he's saying. He's hysterical. I'm like, dude, just calm down. I'm on your side. Like, hey, be cool. Like, you're not thinking clearly. Like, just look at me. We're good. Just give me your hands. Calm down. I need your gun. All right. You're not in the right state of mind right now to have that. Just give me your gun. It's okay. You're not in trouble. So he gives me the gun. I unload it. I make it safe. I put the gun in here, put the bullets on the hood of his truck. And then at this time, another deputy shows up. We're kind of coming up with a game plan, but like, we can see in the house. It's a little house. All the lights, or all the shades are from the windows, and all the lights are on. You can see in. There's no commotion. There's nobody walking around. Nothing looks out of the ordinary. The guy's like, okay, come in the house with me, please. And we're like, yeah. No, we'll go with you. And I'll never forget this. He says, I need to know before you go into the home, do you believe in God? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. And then he says, good. Then that means you believe in the devil. And I went, what the f-? So we start walking towards the house. No signs of forced entry. He opens up the door and he says, pardon me for all the candles. I have to have every square inch in the floor with candles. Because that's the only way to keep it out. There was no candles on the floor. None. So we go in this house, and this guy's like tiptoeing, like, because he doesn't want to step on these candles, and there's no candles there. So I'm like, okay, this is super weird. And we start looking around, me and the other deputy, and like at every window and at the front door, there's a shotgun or a rifle. And I'm like, no. I'm like, dude, hey, respectfully, I know this is your home, but like, we need to make sure this is safe for us. So, you know, there's no commotion going on, and we're literally in the living room on the main floor, and I can see the kitchen and the dining room, and I can see a bathroom. It's so small, and then upstairs there's a loft. That's it. That's the whole house. So I don't think this is a break-in now. We're for sure 100% this is like a mental issue. So he's like, yeah, no, take the guns. So we take the guns, we unload them, make them safe, and I see 3 spent shotgun shells on the floor, and I said, were you shooting? And he's like, yeah, I was shooting at the demons outside. I'm like, dude, what the f-? In the middle of the night, I look up, and standing above, like by the loft, looking down, is his wife, and she's super old. She's like high 70s, early 80s. She's wearing this really long white gown looking thing. She's got long straggly hair. Now, you know, regardless, she's probably a sweet old lady. So I'm like, we need her on our side, because committals are a bitch. Like, you need to go voluntarily. If you don't go voluntarily, it's a pain in the ass. So I'm like, maybe she can talk some sense into him and get him to be like, yeah, you need to go to the hospital. So we already got the ambulance in route to come get this guy checked out. So I go up the stairs to talk to her. And I'm like, hey, ma'am, sorry to bug you. Your husband's kind of wigging out. And she's like, oh, I know. He's been like this the last few days. I don't know what to do with him. And I'm like, hey, I'm on your side. You help me, I'll help you. And she's like, yep. And then she's like, can I ask you, if I did something bad, will I go to jail? And I'm like, well, what'd you do? And she's like, it's really bad. You promise not to tell anybody. And I'm like, yeah, I promise. What happened? And she said, I had to feed it. And I said, feed what? She said, I had to feed the demons. And I said, what the f-? because he's crazy and now she's crazy. That doesn't happen. And I said, well, what'd you do? And she said, I had to feed it babies. I was throwing babies off the balcony. And I'm like, what the No! That she's been feeding babies to this demon or the devil to get him to go away. And she's like, I feel terrible about it. I just keep throwing the babies off the balcony onto the floor where the candles are. Two people saying the exact same crazy like, I've done this hundreds of times. That's not how this works. So I go down and I tell the deputy what she said. I broke the promise, and he's like, okay, I'll go talk to her. And he goes up and then he talks to her and he comes down and he's like, yeah, she's crazy too. And now this old man's wigging out. He's like dancing around, looking outside the window, freaking out. He's like, hey, get out of here. Go, get out of here. And he's like, aren't you guys going to do anything? He's like, shoot at him. And he's like trying to run outside. I'm like, no, don't go outside. And he's like, don't you see him? Don't you see him? And I'm like, I don't see anything. Tell me what you see. And he's like, do you see the devil and the demons dancing around the fire eating the babies? Go save the babies. Save the babies. And I'm like, dude, there's nothing there. I'm sorry, but like, you need to come back to reality. And he's like, now you just pissed them off. And I said, what the f*** you talking about? And he's like, they're all looking at you now. They heard you and they're pissed off and they're all looking at you now. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, oh shit, they're coming at us. They're running towards us. And I'm like, well, shut the shades. Like, stop. And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, just look at me. This can't be real. This can't be real. The ambulance shows up. I'm like, get this guy some happy juice. I'm like, praise Jesus, hallelujah. And I'm like, dude, you have to understand the shit you're saying does not make sense. It's not rationalizing. It cannot be real. And then finally he's like, you're right. It can't be real. I have to be hallucinating. And he's like, take me. I want to feel safe anyway. So give me some juice. Take me to the hospital. That's the only way I'm going to be sleep and feel safe. So the ambulance did that. We found out the old lady just, she'd been in the nursing home for like the last year. She'd just been out a couple weeks, that maybe he fed her head full of shit and she started to believe it too. So they took her, I'm assuming, and helped her out. And me and the other deputy were like, let's get the out of here. So I went home. I told my baby mama, I'm like, look, shit's going down. You need to like douse this place in holy water. I don't know what I brought home, and I'm sorry for the mud I just tracked through the house, but that's not important right now. So then I sat in the hot tub and I had chicken nuggets and then a shot of whiskey and then took some Benadryl because that was the only way I was sleeping that night.
And for the fifth case study, let's revisit this story shared by the ER doctor. And I know quite a few of you watching are nurses, doctors, or work in healthcare. You've shared that with me before, so I think this one will hit especially close to home for you.
So I'm an ER doctor and I have a story that is 100% true and still gives me chills to this very day. Many years ago, I was working in the ER and I got a patient who was a drowning victim, a 5-year-old girl who had fallen in the family swimming pool. When paramedics brought her in, they were doing CPR still. She had no pulse, no blood pressure, she wasn't breathing, and no signs of life. We brought her back to the ER room and we attempted to resuscitate her. I placed a breathing tube, and fortunately, after about 10 minutes, we got her pulse and blood pressure back. Family arrived and parents, of course, were extremely distraught. Dad particularly was really taking it hard. He was blaming himself. He was saying, I should have known better. It's all my fault. I should have known better. It's all my fault. I attempted to reassure him. I was like, sir, listen, this is not your fault. Accidents happen all the time. It was a complete accident. And he said, no, you don't understand. When I was a little kid, I went to stay with my grandparents and they told me not to go down to the river that was right behind their house. I wandered down there anyways. I got in the river, I got in trouble, and I almost drowned. I started screaming for help. My grandpa ran out of the house, dove in the water, and he saved my life, but he lost his that day. And the dad said, first I killed my grandpa, now I almost killed my daughter. And I, again, tried to reassure him. I was like, sir, it's just an accident. It's not your fault. Everything will be okay. And the patient was admitted up to the pediatric ICU. A few days later, I'd gotten word that the little girl had woken up in the pediatric ICU and they had extubated her, taken out the breathing tube. So after my shift, I went up to visit with the family and the little girl. Obviously, the little girl wasn't talking too much because she's still recovering. So I'm talking to the mom and dad. They're extremely thankful. They're very grateful. And obviously, they're overwhelmingly ecstatic that she's going to survive this awful ordeal. So then I turn my attention to the little girl and I'm like, just sparking up natural conversation. Hey, do you remember me? And she's like, no. And I said, do you remember the nurses? Do you remember the paramedics? No. And out of nowhere, she goes, I remember Sam. And I said, who's Sam? She goes, I don't know. And I said, okay, well, what was Sam doing? Thinking, was he, doing chest compression, someone in the ER? I don't know. And she said, he was holding my hand. And I said, what did he look like? She said, he was wearing a hat and a funny jacket. And then I'm like, okay, I didn't know who she's talking about. Then the dad walks over and he's punching on his phone. And he pulls up a picture from Facebook and he points it at her and he goes, was that Sam? And she said, yeah, that's him. That's Sam. And dad turns to mom and he goes, oh my God, that's my grandpa. So his grandpa, who had died 25 years earlier, saving him from drowning, was there holding her hand as we were doing the resuscitation. Literal goosebumps to this very day.
Well, what do you think of that story shared by the doctor just now? For our sixth case study, we're looking at yet another testimony from a former witch, someone who was deeply entangled in witchcraft before. And as I look back on everything we've covered this year, it's clear we've spent a lot of time together unpacking the reality of witchcraft.
I was exposed to the supernatural, not in a good way, at a young age, and at 13 I had my first tarot card reading. That was when I started to seek it out. So yeah, from 13 all the way to that moment, which was in my young 20s, when the mediumship started, I was visiting tarot card readers, numerologists, astrologers, coffee grind readings, and I was doing them. So not only was I getting readings, but I was giving readings as well. Again, it's important to mention that when you practice divination, you are communicating with demons. You are not communicating with dead people. So these demons were multiplying in my life with every reading. It breaks my heart. Every reading that I did, and it's no surprise to me that it got to the point of when they started to visit me to give me information to deceive. I was deceived and deceiving other people. Parallel to doing these readings, I had moments of happiness in my life, but predominant anxiety, constantly being bothered by these entities. And I was seeing demons manifesting right before my eyes. They started touching me. I was hearing from them all the time, and this is where people need to be so careful. Psychic mediums may say, well, I know how to turn it off and turn it on and tell spirit to step back and when to step forward. And that's just not true. They're around you all the time with their sinister agenda. And I could just be in random places hearing from these familiar spirits and thinking I was helping people. But it became fearful at times too, because they were around me so much. I became fearful.
And here's the part where she talked about Taylor Swift.
I'm happy to actually speak about it. I'm very passionate on this topic. And of course, we're seeing it not only with Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Madonna is such a repeat offender, Lady Gaga, but Taylor Swift presents as this Christian-looking, innocent girl years ago, and then you see the darkness boldly, blatantly, when people are already Swifties. They're already hooked. Her music boldly promotes New Age ideologies and concepts. Karma, the invisible string theory. You already had me at that part, right? So there's an invisible string wrapped around your thumb, your pinky, whatever. And there's one wrapped around somebody else's thumb or pinky that you've crossed paths with at some point in your life. And because of that, okay, you are really, maybe that's your, here we go, shift into another New Age, because that's how the New Age works. One equals another one equals another one. Twin flame, soulmate, that must be your soulmate or your twin flame. It doesn't matter if you're married. That's okay. You don't want to let this chance pass you by. You want to go for this invisible string. We crossed paths. We met at the grocery store 7 years ago and again at the 7-Eleven. Wow, this must be, I'm really but the idea is that, once again, that you have this energetic soulmate, twin flame, which are all lies and doctrines of demons. And she pushes these all out in her music. And then what happens? Then you have it go viral. But back to Taylor, who really is a serial dater and then is telling us about these relationships and dropping demonic symbols. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, at the Super Bowl with, well, I shouldn't say that she did it. I'm sorry. Her friend did it. Forgive me. However, we are seeing her doing witchcraft on the stage, and people have a way of justifying it, making excuses for it. That's just choreography. Just like we're seeing at the Olympics, what they did at the Olympics. Because I happen to know some Christian ladies that are calling themselves Swifties, letting their young girls listen. And when she promotes I hate to belabor the point, but when she promotes anti-Christian, you can listen to, I listen to secular music, you know, I do from time to time, but I would be very discerning and very careful when you have, I mean, having sexual immorality in it, feeding this false Jesus communion, and it's just very sad, and painting Christians as hillbillies that don't know how to spell. I think that you have to, I think when it's so in your face, I would steer clear of that.
And of course, beyond witchcraft, we've also covered Freemasonry a lot this year, the hidden spiritual dangers and occult ties that so many people overlook. For this case study, we're going to hear from a former Freemason who came out of that world. But before I share that, there's this very short clip of Father Chad Ripperger I want to share with you first. Now listen carefully to what he said here, because there are a couple of things shared by the former Mason that are quite similar. It's not long, only about a minute.
Our Lady said at Quito that the Freemasons, which by the way is a thoroughly diabolic institution, thoroughly from the bottom to the top. Now I'm not suggesting that the people at the bottom actually are Satanists, but when you get to the top, there's a shift that's actually happening culturally. Historically, it was Luciferian, which is different from Satanic. Luciferian is you become your own god, or that's generally what the Freemasons were at the top levels. But now what's happening is there's a slow shift that's actually occurring among the Freemasons where it's actually becoming satanic, openly satanic at the top. Okay. But they said they were going to, Our Lady said at Quito, they were going to attack marriage during the time we're living in. And they've done a phenomenal job with divorce, etc., and everything that they're doing. Most people don't know this, but the ones who started the swing culture in this country were actually the Freemasons. The ones that are backing all of the gay marriage and stuff like that are the Freemasons, in addition to other people. But they're the ones pushing for this because they're trying to destroy marriage. It just means that they're the instrument. It's the demons who are really after the destruction of marriage. Why? Because marriage is the foundation of culture. If you can destroy marriage, you can destroy the culture. If you can destroy the relationship that the husband and the wife have together, you will destroy the moral and spiritual formation of the children. So they understand the structure better than we do, and they know exactly where to attack it.
So listen to this if you can.
After we had our blindfolds removed, they gave us, they show us how to do the grips and all these things. They gave us the ID card, and they also gave us a little yellow card. I know I've gotten some flack on my previous video because they say, oh, well, we don't get any little yellow cards. You're absolutely right. This is not something standard. This is something that the Grand Master whipped up for this particular batch of entered apprentices. And what it was a double-sided card. One was a prayer that you're supposed to recite every day. And on the reverse side is a prayer that you're only supposed to recite on Saturday night between, I think, 7 p.m. and midnight. And that's really strange. And the first time I did that prayer in parentheses, I was in my living room and I saw what you could probably compare to the distortion you see on hot asphalt on a really hot day, that mirage. I saw something like that move from right to left in my living room. So obviously that prayer had some kind of effect. It either opened a portal or summoned some sort of spirit. And so I was quite happy, not because I was dealing with demons, but because I was now part of this famous or perhaps infamous secret society. I was on the inside. I was one of the elite. And I thought they were going to show me all these wonderful things. And it turned out to not be anything like that at all. Once you've gone through the ritual with the hoodwink on, it's one thing. But then once you've been initiated, they never ask you to wear a hoodwink again during the other initiations. So things proceed in a slightly different fashion. However, every once in a while, they will invite entered apprentices to revisit the cabinet of reflection. And so what they'll do is they'll take a group of us and they'll ask each person to go in and sit in it for a short period of time and tell us what you think. And so I go in and I realize, okay, this is not just a room, this is a portal. And they even tell us, the Grand Master of the Lodge told me, the cabinet of reflection is not just a portal, it's like the central hub of a Masonic lodge. And they literally tell you during the White Lodge meetings, when we bring you in here the first time, we actually open a quote unquote Stargate with what is down below, and they expose you to that. So they literally tell you that they are exposing you intentionally to malevolent spiritual beings. So basically, during the entered apprentice ritual, when they take you underground, they are taking you into a necromantic ritual pit in order to contact the exalted one of the pit. But of course, they keep all these things concealed from you. So you literally are working with demons. The man who was at the time the worshipful master of my lodge, who then became the Grand Master, would routinely assist during the White Lodge meetings. And they would impart all these nuggets of knowledge to us. And at the time, I didn't really connect the dots, but over time, once I had a little bit of distance, the Grand Master told us, the lodge meetings are really just a distraction. Your spiritual pit crew has an opportunity to work on you when you're in the lodge. They're basically telling you that demons are influencing you and working on you whenever you congregate in a lodge meeting. And that's not to say they don't follow you in real life, but basically they're working with demons. Because I also remember that after I had done that Saturday night prayer ritual, the relationship with my father was always tense. But once I came into the lodge and I did that little ritual prayer, things were just ratcheted up. He would constantly try to ambush me with certain things. He would provoke arguments. And my life was just becoming more chaotic. As much as you think when you're going into this organization that things are going to be hunky-dory, that things are going to be fine, it was quite the contrary for me. What people need to understand is that until you get to the level of Sovereign Grand Inspector General, 33rd for regular people, they're basically leading you around by the nose. They're teaching you, they will show you what the symbols mean, but it's a very surface level application. There are various different meanings to those symbols. And when you're an entered apprentice, fellow craft, mason, secret master, so on and so forth, those symbols mean one thing, but as you get up into the higher degrees, they start removing veils. And the reason that they do this, I have discovered, is that if they showed you as an entered apprentice what they're really all about, people would just run screaming in terror. Like no one would remain in the organization. So they go into this slow boil process where they gradually expose you to this stuff. And they figure that by doing that, eventually, by the time everything is revealed to you, that you'll be okay with it. And people have asked me, are there secret Masonic degrees? And yes, because every year at the Masonic Year's End, which is usually June 24th, which is a special holiday in Quebec called St. John the Baptist Day. You have to understand that every Masonic lodge is called a St. John's Lodge, as in St. John the Baptist. But they have a different view on him than the Bible. They twist and contort all the meanings of things. Anyway, so during my first Masonic year-end meeting, the Grand Master of the Lodge literally tells us that there are secret degrees above 33, and that the Worshipful Master of my lodge had just gone to the 34th degree. So that was, I guess, sort of like, they're just starting to do Freemasonry. And they'll tell you this, like, you don't really start doing Freemasonry until you get to the 33rd and higher. So everything until then is just subterfuge.
For the 8th case study, we're diving into another area I've covered a lot this year, haunted houses. I've shared plenty of warnings for paranormal investigators out there. What they're doing is extremely dangerous spiritually. They're basically opening the door wide for demons to enter. Now remember, I've shared this with you just a few videos ago.
What is happening there once you communicate by some means is that you build a bond. You build a relationship with the spirit
Well, it seems that that particular clip of Father Winston can be used to explain what is wrong with what this medium said during their paranormal investigation. And of course, that also applies to the others with her in that room doing whatever they're doing.
Are you just pretending to be John? Are you the shadow person that was captured on camera? And you cannot lie to us.
You can't lie to us. This is why I brought them here, because they can help me to know who you are, and I'm done with you lying to me. I'm done with you lying to everybody else. Tonight's the night to tell us the truth.
Honor him, that's a weird response.
I don't honor you.
We're not doing that.
No.
We don't honor anything dark. We don't honor anything that can harm us. No. We don't honor things that don't even give us the real answers that we're here for.
Yeah, you won't even tell us your name.
Now, I cut out a lot of parts from the video and remove anything that's not appropriate or the responses they get. But there were two things that they said which show their ignorance. The first is they expect truthful answer, and secondly, we don't honor anything dark, which is why I shared that clip of Father Winston at the start of this video.
Is that you build a bond, you build a relationship with the spirit.
And this brings us to another case study I want to share with you in this video. This is Ramon Miles, who's a psychic medium, and recently he gave an interview specifically answering questions from the paranormal community. And the interview has been watched hundreds of thousands of times by now. Unfortunately, he's giving a lot, and I mean awful lot of wrong information to the people out there, obviously drawing from his own experience ghost hunting, paranormal investigation, and communicating with the spirits. So the clips of the exorcists I want to share with you this time will be somewhat related or addressing what he said during the interview. Let's listen to this first.
Psychometry, which is where I can read pictures or objects that belong to people. There's a psychic drawing where I can get an individual to draw, either their eyes closed or open, and whatever they draw, I can read. Also, psychically, obviously, I can communicate with people's loved ones. For instance, your grandfather. If your grandfather is with you and he wants to show himself to me, I can communicate that way. Often, spirits will pass messages to me without me realizing, and what you get is me talking and speaking about whoever is with you or whoever is with the person I'm with. So I didn't know, but that was what came through at that particular time. That's why I'm a psychic medium. For many, many years, I've been having paranormal experiences of seeing ghosts in different locations, in hospitals, on the streets. Almost anywhere I looked, I would see ghosts. So I went to a spiritual fair and I met up with a ghost hunter there, and he sparked my interest to such a degree that I joined his paranormal team so I could learn more, so I could understand it more. It's like learning in anything in life. The more you study, the more you experience, the better you become, the more you know. Knowledge is strength. Many people are frightened at ghosts. Follow them home. In my experience, and I have done thousands of ghost hunts, no spirit has ever followed me home. Perfectly good example, which hopefully will make you understand. If we went to a haunted location, and let's say there were 2 ghosts in that haunted location, there will have been many hundreds, if not thousands of people who will have been to that location before us. If the spirits were going to follow you home, those 2 spirits would have followed people home 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So the place would no longer be haunted because the ghosts follow you home. In reality, there wouldn't be a single haunted location anywhere in the world because all the ghosts have followed you home. So the fact that a location has been haunted for many, many, many years by the same ghost is your evidence that they do not follow you home. Does that make sense? Ghosts are everywhere. I would strongly suggest that what you were sensing and feeling was the ghosts that were with you in that location when you felt. Ghosts that are mobile can move anywhere, so they can follow you, but they're not going to follow you home. Why would they want to follow you home? But there's also other ghosts that will be in the location that you're in as well, because ghosts are everywhere. So it may be those ghosts that you were sensing and feeling, because at that time, your mind was very active. So anything and everything you might think are ghosts. But in reality, and I'll keep saying this because it's true, in my experience, they don't follow you home, but they make themselves known around you. One of my first experiences of a ghost was seeing a poltergeist ghost throw something off the shelf. Often people will feel a cobwebby feeling. Often you'll see me on the videos doing this. And it feels like I'm walking through cobwebs. Yeah, and when you do that, it's like, that's usually the first sign of people beginning to sense and feel spirits and ghosts. Now, I've developed from sensing them to seeing them and being able to communicate with them. And there's different stages and different levels. We all have certain abilities, some better than others.
Now that we've listened to that, let's start with what he said about no spirits following him home.
In my experience, and I have done thousands of ghost hunts, no spirit has ever followed me home.
So I watched a show one time, and at the end, the ghost hunter's like, well, whatever we encounter here, you better stay here because I'm going home now and I don't want you to follow me. But the notion, again, it isn't that it lives there, it's manifesting there as a way to make an attachment with those people that are present, with the end result being that these demons want to destroy people's lives by having them begin to unravel with all kinds of problems. Most exorcists will tell you that when people claim to encounter a ghost, it's actually a demon who's trying to masquerade as something else as a way to draw people in.
Basically what these psychic medium, paranormal investigators, ghost hunters are doing, they're invoking the demons on top of the necromancy involved. For our 9th case study, it's on the occult, and specifically something I shared with you before, what an Eastern occultist openly admitted about the amulets they sell and the demonic spirits attached to them.
This bamboo was by the master called Ajahn Go Noi Mahamon. If there is some form of intruder, this thing will shake violently to inform him. I've seen it personally before. The wind is very strong. So all the plastic water bottle fly, but this thing
Never move.
never move.
And what is inside?
Okay, what is inside? Okay, basically what is inside is mostly herbs mixed in with a little bit of corpse oil. Corpse oil came from burning of the corpse. Yeah, when they go for cremation, some form of oil will leak out, right? Those are the oil.
And the reason why you can see there's a string over here is to seal it.
Seal what?
It is to seal the ghost inside. So master got say before, don't open this. Because once it runs away, it's gone.
By the way, let me share with you something important. For those who are thinking of getting close to someone who practices the occult, here's the reason why you should not do that.
Being in the company of people that are in the occult, people that go to tarot card readers, psychics, play with Ouija boards, those people can carry spirits with them. And not that evil is contagious, it is not. Evil cannot be transmitted by touch, no. But rather, what happens when you hang around people that practice black magic or witchcraft or santeria or people that cast curses like the macumba, the evil eye, the malocchio, the sortileggio, different cultures, different races do these things. They can do it against you if they get angry at you. They can involve other people to know how to do it too. And they can carry with themselves what are called amulets that can bring with them misfortune. Just like God has sacraments, physical things that transmit grace, so Satan has his talismans, his amulets that don't transmit, but can bring with them, accompany them, trouble wherever they are.
For the regulars here, I'm sure you've listened to a lot of exorcists and also non-exorcist priests warning us about dabbling in the occult. But if you're new here, I need to share with you this clip as a warning.
Frequent occultists, psychics, tarot card readers, things like that. These are people who expose themselves to demonic infiltration. Once you go to these psychics, none of them are authentic, not one. They're all false. They do have true gifts, which makes it confusing. God gives them these gifts, but they abuse them. They use them for profit, and guess what they do? They go into league with evil spirits, demonic entities. So when these people say, your grandfather said this, oh, it's true, only my grandfather would know that, guess what? The devil might know that too. And this is where these people now are in contact with demonic entities, and they accompany them back home. And then they go back to the psychic, the fortune teller, the tarot card reader, which are all demonic means of knowing the truth, which isn't really the truth. And they bring this residual evil entity back with them. And they need deliverance to be freed from these demons.
And there's a channel called the Iron Inquisitor, and in one of their most recent videos, they visited Salem, Massachusetts. In that video, they also visited a church and talked to the priest there about the area. And the church is, according to the video, surrounded by 10 occult stores.
What are some bad things that you've seen here in the city?
People kind of normalizing worship of Satan. Most recently, someone dropped off a Ouija board, just kind of leaned it up against the building. Over the course of the time I've been here, people have left things, the stuff that they had used at a seance.
And another random thing, I know I do that quite a lot. I hope you're used to how I present these things by now. But there's a very short video clip I came across that reminded me of something Father Carlos Martin said before.
We have no regard for the masses. Satanism is a religion for the elite. It is a religion for leaders. It's a religion for competent people. It's not a religion for anyone who wants to be a Satanist. We're helping those who help themselves, as it says in your Bible. You can take the decrepit. You can take people who can't help themselves. We don't want them. It's simple.
Of course, he could be lying. I wouldn't put it past him anyway. But in any case, when I watched this video for a little bit, I did remember something Father Martin shared before. Please allow me to share that again here.
You know, Satanism, there's two kinds of Satanists, or two kind of satanic entities. Cultic Satanism and individual Satanism. Cultic Satanism, these are old cults. Many of them are ancient. You never hear about them because they operate secretly. They don't want new membership. They raise their members internally. So these are old, kind of akin to the strategy of the mafia. Almost no one is able to enter into the mafia save from those in a select group that are already related to the family. That is cultic Satanism. Individual Satanism, the folks who do that, they are folks who would be willing to advertise themselves, to identify themselves as Satanists. But those folks cover the gamut. Some of them, as in the case of this group here that are celebrating and organizing the satanic black mass, they don't even believe in God. They don't even believe in the devil. So they adopt the figure of the devil. They subscribe to the label Satanism because that asserts their independence.
Now certainly we know that Nicholas and Zena did not hesitate to label themselves as one though, but regardless whether they think the devil is real or just a figure to assert their independence, as Father Martin's put so well there, one thing is for sure though.
The world of evil is very much the mafia world. You don't just interact with the mafia and then get out whenever you want. You form a relationship with the mafia, now you're in. In the spiritual realm, you form a relationship with the devil, then the devil forms a relationship with you, and you don't get out simply because you want to get out. It just doesn't work like that.
For the 10th and last case study we're revisiting in this video, it's going to be on one of the biggest spiritual plagues in our society today, OnlyFans. We'll look at how the devil used Instagram to lure a husband and wife down to hell.
But so yeah, I'm 25 years old. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm an above the knee amputee, so I lost my leg in my battle to cancer above the knee. So I'm a prosthetic user as well. I'm a father and a husband and a follower of Jesus Christ, most importantly. It's been 13 months now that I've been saved and that I've been on my faith journey with Jesus. And before those 13 months, I was previously an actor in the adult film industry, in the OnlyFans industry, as well as a director, a producer, a talent manager. My wife was as well. And so I was really deep into that industry, a lot deeper than I ever thought I was going to be honest. But I was really deep into that industry for about 3 years. That's what I did. I'll be starting a new job soon, selling prosthetic legs, but it's only been about a year since I lost my legs. So I'm still kind of learning how to adjust to that. And I've been learning, but things are going really well. You know, it's been tough for sure to overcome having one leg, but I mean, I think it was something that was a lot easier than probably people would think, because Jesus has been in my corner with me. He's given me the strength to wake up every day and to walk, even though I don't have a leg. He's given me the courage. He's filled my heart with gratitude and patience. And so even though I don't have two legs, I thank God every single day for my one healthy leg that I do have. And I thank him for my prosthetic leg. I thank him for my life and my two working lungs. I thank him for my two beautiful sons that I have. And so I'm truly, truly blessed at this very moment. But yeah, it was 2020 when we started. I've been working at Home Depot, like stocking shelves for a couple years. My wife was stay at home with the baby and she was in school. She was studying to be a teacher, funny enough. And we had a young baby. And we lived with my mom and dad, and we were not doing super well financially. Just very like bare minimum. We were making enough money to like kind of pay for our groceries. We would give my mom and dad a little bit of money to stay there, and I mean, other than that, like we could barely even afford to put gas in our cars. So we were just kind of that typical story of not really doing well financially. 20 years old, I'm married, I have a young baby, and I'm working at Home Depot, barely making any money. And I'm kind of, as a young man, still kind of in that blameful mindset, I guess, just like God's not blessing us. Like I've got to take my life into my own hands because God's not going to do anything to help my family. Um, which is just kind of like that typical arrogant young kid mindset, right? Like not being grateful for the things you have or recognizing the work that he is doing around you. Yeah, I just really was focused on worldly things and my lack of, honestly, our lack of money, and that stuff really just kind of is what initially fueled some of our decisions. Also at this time, as we were struggling for money and wondering where our big break was going to come from. My wife and I were both influencers on Instagram and on TikTok, and we were bodybuilders. We loved working out. We were both in great shape, and we would post content on social media trying to pick up um, pick up followers and pick up sponsorships via our bodybuilding content. That was going really well for a while, and especially for my wife, that was going really, really well. She was blowing up like thousands of followers every day, and so we were starting to like really get on that side of things. We were starting to see like, okay, well, yeah, it looks like she's really got something going here. She might actually really take off. And so we decided one day to do kind of a deep dive into her analytics and see what was helping. She had picked up some sponsorship. She was selling leggings for some companies and selling sports bras and have like a discount code. And she would go post her videos and follow my discount code and go pick up this pair of leggings, but she wasn't selling anything. Like nobody would buy the stuff that she was trying to sell. And so we did a deep dive on her analytics one day, just trying to figure out like, okay, you're getting tons of followers, your content's getting tons of engagement, but what's wrong here? What's the disconnect? Why aren't you able to sell anything? So we ended up going and looking at her analytics, and we discovered that 99% of her followers was men between the ages of 19 and 40. So 99% of her following base was men, which is why she wasn't selling anything. Because she was getting discount codes to sell feminine products, and that's why she wasn't selling anything. So we quickly kind of discovered, okay, people are following you because they find you attractive sexually, it looks like. And so that was something like when we discovered that was immediately kind of a seed planted from the enemy in my mind. Like right then and there, I was like, okay, we have something here. At this same time that I noticed she had all male followers on Instagram, I had guys at my work telling me, dude, have y'all ever thought about, doing OnlyFans or joining the porn industry? Like, dude, your girl's so hot, and like, like you obviously got the confidence. Like, why don't y'all try that? Like, just same thing. The enemy was working through people even around me at my job, just planting that seed, watering that seed that had already been planted in my mind of objectifying ourselves, right, for money. And so that's really when it started, was in 2020. Those things were all happening and all falling into place. And so we were in church, we were hearing the gospel, and I think it sounded good, but we didn't really believe it at the time. Like I think we both thought if we wanted our lives to turn out the way we wanted it to turn out, we had to take things into our own hands. And so that's kind of what that's kind of what starting OnlyFans and getting into the porn industry was about. Like, we just wanted to take our life into our own hands and kind of live how we see social media portraying the good life, right? Like, we got sucked into that illusion that you need money and you need shiny jewelry and fancy cars and big houses to be happy. All those things were kind of falling into place at this time. And so my wife and I, we sat down one night and I was just telling her, like, hey, like, here's the deal. Like, if we started OnlyFans, I mean, we would obviously make pretty good money. Like, you've got all male followers, you're blowing up. If we want to live a life where we don't have to work a corporate job, or, you know, if we want to live a life where we can be financially free, I think this is our shot. And to be honest with you, I convinced her that it would be worth starting. She was a little hesitant, but she gave in, and we started our OnlyFans page. And so initially, at the beginning, it was supposed to be something where we were going to hide our faces and change our names, and, you know, just put sexual content out there that protected our identities, and just try to see if we can make, you know, a few $100 extra a month just to, like, pay for groceries and things like that. Like, we were just expecting to make a side hustle out of it, honestly, and just make a few extra bucks here and there, and see how that panned out. Well, within 2 months of starting our page, I was quitting my job. And we, again, like, I don't want it to sound like a brag or anything, but within the first month of starting it, we made, like, you know, 6,000 or so that first month, and then the very next month we made 10,000 that month, and from there it just skyrocketed. And I was working, you know, 60 hours a week at Home Depot for like $2,500 a month, if that. And so now suddenly we were working like 2 hours a week, and we were making, you know, nearly 10K in a month. So again, it was like the enemy just letting things fall into place, you know, like, that's like really the only way I can describe it. I mean, it just took off for us right there. So I quit my job and invested full-time efforts into this business, and developing it and developing content. And what quickly became something that we were going to do as a side hustle became our main hustle. I mean, in a matter of weeks. And, you know, initially, like I said, we had decided that we wanted to hide our faces and hide our identity and just try to like make it an anonymous thing. But once it started blowing up, I quickly got a taste of kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, but like the viral life, like the fame life. Like, quickly I changed my mind, and I wanted my face to be in it. I wanted our identities to be known. I wanted to be credited for the work that we were doing here. And same thing. So I convinced my wife of that too. And we started putting our faces in it and really expanding our business. Also, something I should say is, when we started, we had agreed that it was just going to be me and her. It was going to be me and her creating sexual content between ourselves anonymously, and we would post it and hopefully make a little bit of extra money. But like I said, within 2 months, we were showing our faces. It was not anonymous, and we were making enough money and gaining enough followers that we were already having discussions of, okay, well, it seems like if we want to grow more and more, faster and faster, we're going to have to work with other creators in this industry, and, you know, do sorts of collaborations and whatnot to try to continue to grow. So again, within 2 months, we were compromising like our main two stipulations that we had put up in the beginning. So that's really where the whole thing starts. Quickly, it had become our full-time hustle, and it just became something way bigger than I guess we had ever anticipated.
And that is it for the video this time, and I just want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here and for your continuous support this year. And I really hope all of you have learned a lot here. And remember, if ever you have any feedback or suggestion, please let us know in the comments below. Anyway, if you like what we do and you'd like to support us, I left a link to our PayPal donation in the description box below, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your continuous support, contributions, and prayers. And until the next one, thanks again for watching, and may God bless you.